This is me now. However, if I had given up, I would not be where I am today. I would not have gotten here or here, but most importantly, I would not have met them. This is a story of the day I wanted to quit. This is a story that, in my opinion, defines my life today. August 21st, 2016. The day I wanted to quit. The day I thought all hope was lost. The day I had an existential crisis. The day I personally experienced the harmful effects of racism and double standards in sports. This day, I had a loss of innocence and grew up a little. To think that this definitive moment started with a simple selection to Team Ontario. To think of how excited I was when I had first gotten the news. In fact, I was ecstatic. It was unbelievable. Me, Idia DigitalStory, was chosen to represent Ontario at Nationals. Me. This was it. As an athlete, I had finally made it. If only I knew. The week before, we had all competed at the Ontario Summer Games with our respective teams, so most of us were already familiar with each other. However, little did I know that these girls had been knowing each other. Everybody already had their friends, and there were already cliques. In addition to this, I already felt out of place, as I was one of 3 people of color. I did not live in a rural area like most of the other girls, and I lacked rugby experience. And because of my shy personality, I was extremely quiet and very guarded. So it was natural for me to be uncomfortable during our game of Never Have I Ever, especially considering how I felt when I played this 3 days ago at the Ontario Summer Games with TRU. Because this was when I realized that I lived a very different lifestyle than my teammates. So to avoid further embarrassment, I refused to play. Little did I know that I would later be punished for this trivial game. Moreover, being one of the only black people on the team, I immediately had to deal with racial stereotypes, as my teammates and my coach believed I was someone that I was not. My coach expected me to be outgoing, and my teammates expected me to know how to braid hair and twerk.
My anaconda don't, my anaconda don't, my anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hun.
And when I told them that I could not, they concluded that I was lying and just did not want to. Despite this, I still attempted to braid their hair because team bonding is actually important. But like I had already told them, I could not braid their hair, so things didn't go well. Anyways, later on, while some of us were hanging out, Tash, this white girl, randomly says, "I wonder if we turn off the lights if we'll be able to see Idia, ha ha ha." Initially, I was taken aback. What she said was unnecessary and uncalled for. She was just salty because I couldn't braid her hair. Later, at dinner, I took a couple of brownies for dessert with the intentions that I would take some back to my room for a late night snack. However, when my coach saw this, she was disgusted and enraged. She took my plate of brownies and then proceeded to take everyone else's dessert. This was antagonizing because everyone was losing their dessert privileges because of me. Rolling out in the hallway while listening to country music for an hour. Well, if you know me, you know that this is not my scene. So naturally, I had my headphones in. However, I was still conversing and even gave people massages, like I was a masseuse. And then later on, someone suggested that we play water pong for our bonding activity. However, being a non-drinker, I was unfamiliar with this game, so I watched and opted out of playing. Side note, now looking back, it's funny that I felt pressure to play because they called these activities team bonding, but the whole team wasn't even invited. Every night before a game, we had meetings where the lineups were announced and jerseys were presented. However, this night, the coaches were running late, so we were all just chatting and playing games. And then all of a sudden, the manager approaches me and tells me that coach wanted to see me downstairs. I said, okay, and then proceeded to meet her. Unaware of what I was walking into, unaware that I would want to quit playing and go home after this conversation. Long story short, Coach told me that I was not going to be dressing for our last game because I disrespected her by continuing to take desserts at dinner and because I did not attempt to fit in with the team. I was to warm up and sit on the sidelines in my practice kit. This was the worst part because the whole point of playing Team Ontario is to get exposure and go from blue to red to make Team Canada. So if this wasn't nationals, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But in this moment, I was heartbroken. I really believed I was done in the rugby community forever because the Canada coaches would see me on the sidelines uninjured and not dressed and would ask my coach why I was not playing. And she would slander my name and I would be blacklisted. In this moment, I thought my life was over. There went Team Canada. There went my future. I was done. This was the day I wanted to quit rugby.